Marriage counselors of Reddit. What's the stupidest reason a couple has made an appointment? My specialty is children and families. But during the pandemic I was assigned whatever came in because it has been super busy. One lady called and spoke with me first about how her husband was horrible at communication and never listened to her. She asked for a couples session. As soon as she ambushed her husband with "There is a therapist on the line that wants to speak with you," her husband screamed, "You called a therapist because I don't want to paint the house purple." She wanted me to convince him to paint the house purple. And like any normal human who sees colors, he refused to listen to her. A buddy of mine was in therapy with his wife. She told me later that my friend, let's call him Gary, has a drinking problem. Me, wait, what? Since when is Gary drinking? I never saw him drink alcohol. Her, that's the problem. Oh Gary. I hope you are fine now. I once had an ex who was in AA tell me I was an alcoholic because I and my family didn't drink much. And that was an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. The early days of recovery are weird. As someone who got sober a few years back, AA is a very odd place. I went once and didn't quite understand why someone would constantly want to revisit their alcoholism every single week. Like I try to imagine getting shot and then attending a getting shot club on the norm. It's always the dishes. I don't see couples anymore because I cannot have one more conversation with adult human beings about the various philosophies of dishwashing. Dad told me that the secret to a happy marriage was a dishwasher and 2 bathrooms. I work with a lot of kids. And I see far more stupid reasons that couples have not scheduled an appointment. Parents spill their guts while explaining what's wrong with their children. And 90% of the time it's the parents' marriage causing issues with the child family. This is totally not a catch-all statement because many children have true behavioral, emotional challenges separate from their parents' marriage. But at the same time, if you feel like your child is struggling and you have tried everything, maybe try marriage counseling. Oh, this is so true. LCSW here. Worked with kiddos and families for a good chunk of my career. And 95% of the time, if the kid is having issues, there's a parenting issue or a marriage partner problem. I had a woman come in for couples counseling. Over the phone she reported that her boyfriend, with the same last name, very confusing, was distant and was refusing to listening. When the session started it was just her that showed up. She went on and on about how absent he was and how he refused to see the progress she had been making in her life. It turns out the boyfriend was an ex who had a restraining order against her and lived halfway across the country from her. She was delusional and was receiving treatment for her mental health issues. She just could not get her thinking away from him and legally changed her last name to his because it would mean they would be together. She figured couples counseling was the way to work on their relationship issues. Not sure this is the stupidest, but it is definitely the most bizarre reason I have had someone make an appointment. Nothing is really stupid in making the decision to come in for a couples session. But the most startling session I've had was when the couple had barely sat down and one of them informed the other that the relationship was over. Turned to me and said, "Thank you for supporting partner through this," and left the office. Couldn't decide on which chicken to buy for their chicken farm. My cousin went to counseling because her husband cuts the sandwich straight inside of diagonal. When I first heard it, I thought it was a joke. My ex-coworker once told me about an argument he and his girlfriend regularly have. Apparently, when you make a sandwich, some people care about whether the bread remains facing the same way it did in the original loaf or if one piece gets turned around relative to the other. I don't just mean top of the loaf remains facing the same way. I mean the cut sides of the slices remain facing the slice they were originally cut from. I told my fiancé about this ridiculousness and he said, "No. I see her point, and now I have to regularly have conversations about which way bread is facing. It depends on the type of bread. It doesn't make a difference with the factory-style one where every slice is the same square shape. But they're not going to match up and give proper coverage if it's a curved loaf. Not that I'd refuse to eat a sandwich which hadn't been made this way. It's more of a fussiness about making it look right." I had a pimp and one of his sex workers come to see me because they were having jealousy issues. They were legally married and he was unhappy with how she couldn't leave work at work. Best couple ever. A lot of couples schedule counseling for legitimate reasons like communication issues, but then it will come out that the real reason is something stupid and they don't even realize it. I had a couple married 25 years who were struggling to connect, and it turned out they were resentful of each other because they both wanted to spend various holidays with their families of origin. Never talked about it, never mentioned it, just both simmered in silent resentment for 25 years. It was resolved so quickly once it was unearthed. Another couple came in for parenting challenges. Told me very casually they hadn't had sex since their youngest was conceived. How old is your youngest? 13. Both were acting like it was completely normal and fine and unrelated. Turned out it was not normal and not fine and definitely related. Referred for sex therapy and heard the whole family happily graduated from therapy within months. The entire family was seeking therapy with different counselors for different reasons, or so they thought. No, they were not doing family sex therapy. I can't believe I just typed, family sex therapy. Quote. Not a counselor. But my friend is one. And a couple came to her unofficially because the wife wouldn't tell her hubby when her mom was coming over because she knew he'd be sick or out that day. I'm a counselor with teenagers and kids. A school staff member dragged these two teens into my office one day. A boy and a girl. Both were clearly upset but definitely didn't want to talk about it with me. You could have cut the tension with a knife as they sat frozen in their chairs staring at the floor. I saw them and thought, oh fuck. She's pregnant. I'm trying not to panic at how to handle the situation as I finally get them talking, and it turns out they were just fighting because he sent a text to some girl. A text. At least she wasn't pregnant. I'm not a marriage counselor. But I'm in school to be a mental health counselor at the moment. My professor has worked in the field for over 30 years. And we asked him this question at one point. He answered something like this: there is no stupid reason to seek out counseling. What may seem trivial to one person can completely consume another person. What may seem insignificant to you might just be the last straw for a client. It's our job to figure out why that stupid reason caused them to land in your care. Sometimes it's a lot of minor things that build up because they don't have any good coping mechanisms. Sometimes it's a major problem that they don't want to talk about. So they start small. Sometimes it's something they don't even realize is a problem, but is causing them distress regardless. There's a lot of reasons why clients might present you with something that seems completely insignificant. But the fact is, they are in front of you, paying you money, so that you can help them improve their mental health. 99% of the time. That means that they believe getting help is worth their time and money. He then proceeded to tell us a story about a woman who believed that Ashton Kutcher was her baby's daddy. And she wanted a psychiatric professional to verify her mental health so she could file for child support and reconnect with him. As far as he could tell, she had never met Ashton Kutcher, or even seen him in person. So sometimes people are crazy, but not usually. I'm a clinical therapist and had a client bring in their spouse for a session. They both have sporadically treated bipolar disorder. I can only assume what a wild ride their kids are on. My ex made an APPT for us when he got his side girl pregnant. I was 26 and in grad school. Lonely, stressed, and horribly gaslit, and went along. At the time the therapist would say, if he hasn't changed by now he's not going to. Usually I'm trying to keep people together but I'm not sure I can now, and I would get mad. Now I look back and things come on girl. We broke up about 3 to 4 months later. It hurt unbelievably for a bit at first. But after some time, distraction, and actual effort to move forward coupled with a year of deciding to just be single, I am now doing phenomenally. It's so easy to want to keep something even if it's disgusting and poisonous. Because you don't see all the lying and cheating. You see the cute falling asleep together and hand-holding. But staying is worse than leaving sometimes. And I am just so happy to be out of that and as far away from that dumpster fire of his life as possible. Not a counselor. But me and my ex had the biggest fight known later as the spoon incident. We were both working over 60 hours a week and were stressed. Nonetheless, we had one night off together, so I made sure that I had cleaned the house and everything before she came home. She came back while I was unpacking the dishwasher and put the last cutlery in the drawers. When I finally put a spoon in the drawer, she said, "That's not where it's supposed to go." I asked her whether this is the way you want to treat me after I've cleaned the house and stuff. Never been so pissed at a GF. While it was actually fairly meaningless. Not me, but my buddy's wife demanded counseling after he refused to fix his habit of leaving the seat up. Apparently the straw that broke the camel's back was he didn't realize his poo came back up, and she fell into the toilet on his old waterlogged shit. From the other side, I ran into an ex-girlfriend after being broken up for a long time. We decided to go to couples counseling as friends to clarify some stuff from the past. We went to the session, talked about some heavy stuff, but then ended up being very supportive to each other and laughed and stuck up for each other in a weird way. At the end, the counselor guy was just staring at us sort of dumbfounded and said something along the lines of, you two clearly need to get back together." He just remembered his face. He was looking at us like we were idiots. I think the idea of post-breakup couples counseling as friends might have been a new thing as well. I've never heard of anyone doing it before. But man, how nice would that be? "Hey, I'm still dealing with the breakup. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I know it hit you hardest since I did the breaking up. Do you want to set up an appointment with a therapist to see if it'll help you through it? I'm more than happy to go." "Hey, thanks. Yeah, let's do that. If only the majority of life could be so reasonable." So I understand the ancient idea of two virgins marrying. But sometimes, man, guess what? Couple comes to me. Guy angry because his wife apparently wears a padded bra and uses makeup, and the wife is upset because he has a small dick but apparently acted as if he didn't. Big dick energy or whatever, the two were made for each other. Truly. My ex-wife suggested we go to marriage counseling because she felt we needed to work on communication. I was slightly confused since we never really fought about anything and I didn't know that much was amiss. So I went with her and we had several sessions, and it basically turned into just parenting classes since we didn't seem to have any issues to work on. Then one day she tells me she's bi and is going to go sleep with a married couple she's been friends with for a week because that's the only thing that's going to make her happy. Would have been nice to know in marriage counseling that that was the real issue she was wanting to work on, since I had no idea she was struggling with her sexuality. Guess there really was a communication issue.